Good morning, everybody. Welcome again to another edition of Power Talks. And on this one, I want to look at the whole gas revolution and gas being the next big thing and how it translates to electricity for millions of Nigerians that do not currently have access to electricity. What we want to do today is look at what potentials Nigeria has with gas, how it will affect every other Nigerian who is not currently connected. Do we really need all of this massive investment in infrastructure for gas? And what are the alternatives? Why can't we look at small off-grid solutions? Why should we just invest all of that money on gas to electricity alone? With us, I'll start from my immediate right. We have Mr. Jaffer Omonjuwa. To my immediate left, we have the Senior Special Assistant on Gas and the Honorable Minister.
What's the non-immediate right?
Don't worry, we'll get to that. Don't worry, we'll get to that. We'll get to my non-immediate right. Then we have Mr. Ike Nadona from Center for Social Justice with us. And we have Mr. Chima, who is just joining in. And of course, we have our superstar in the house, Zina Mohammed, who looks like a Brazilian. So, we have 45 minutes to do this, so let's try to be as precise as possible with our points. So, sir, I'll come to you first. Gas to electricity. How true?
Very true. But it must be properly situated. Nigeria has a lot of gas. Some figures put it at 183 trillion cubic feet of gas. And this was gas that's been found incidental to looking for oil. Experts will tell you there's a lot more gas that is out there. So as a source of energy, part of which comes to power, it makes sense that we use it. But it is expensive to exploit. And therefore,
expensive to exploit.
It is expensive to exploit. And therefore, we must look at other options.
Okay.
So we have, we're lucky to be blessed with many natural sources of energy. Sunlight is one. Okay. Biomass is another. Hydro is another.
Okay.
And for these reasons, and for purposes of energy security, we also need to look at the whole basket. So the solution to Nigeria's problems with power, the realization of the tenets of Vision 2020 and the President's transformation agenda, translated to the common man to mean no Nigeria left in darkness, must of necessity include elements from all these sources.
Let me just cut you short. You said expensive to exploit. I will stick to that phrase. Since the return of democracy to Nigeria in 1999, like how much has Nigeria invested in gas? Or in the gas sector?
I am not
to generate power.
I'm not confident to tell you that. The reason being the gas we get, some of it comes from looking for oil.
Yes, the associated gas.
Yeah, that's associated gas. We also have non-associated gas.
Yes.
That comes directly from looking for gas. You have gas that comes from normal terrain, you have gas that comes from swamp, you have gas that comes from offshore. All these have different costs associated with them. And as you know, there are many players. I am not privy to the budget information or expenses information for all of this. But take it from me that it is a lot of money that goes into it.
Okay. Let's jump to Kenya. We just ended with a lot of money that's gone into gas investment. And from your experience, considering the fact that you look into budgets, do you think Nigeria really needs to be spending that much money on gas infrastructure?
If we have to ask that, it has to come from the position of needs and demand. We need a lot of power, but at the same time, we have a much more pressing need. At this point in time, stretching out or extending towards a gas infrastructure, considering the huge investment that is actually required, it may not necessarily be the priority of the available funds we have. That's why we'll have to be seeking alternative investment channels. into such investments. We have to venture into it. But based on what we have now, our revenue actors are declining, on the decline. We have security challenges, our poverty level is still on the high side. We still have lots of youth roaming the streets unemployed. So those issues are much more pressing.
Okay.
Than investing in those issues, looking at sector growth and the rest of them, seems to be much more pressing compared to trying to put all the money into gas.
For some statistics have it that over 50% of Nigerians don't have access to electricity. So put it at 60. So isn't that also a very pressing issue that we need to sort out as well?
Yes, it is a pressing issue, but it is not an issue that has its solution, solely on gas.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a solution. We can arrive at a solution, bridging that gap, providing electricity.
So basically, you think Nigeria needs a more comprehensive plan?
A more holistic approach towards it, not a centralized one, because it seems the effort seems to be too centralized at
national grid.
Yes, at national grid. And so the federal government need not put all its money into it. There are other sources of raising funds to get other investors into the sector.
Okay,
Can I come in? I think we need to take a step back. What we're trying to do, nobody wants to produce gas for the sake of producing gas. What we want is to provide electricity to Nigerians. Why we want to do that? Electricity is the single most important catalyst for development, employment, growth. Yeah, it's the one catalyst you need to have in place to get a handle on growth and development of any economy. If we take that as it is, then we say, what do we need to do to bring electricity? So, gas is one source, coal is another source, solar energy is another source, hydro is another source, and so on, right? And these must take investment funds. Then you begin to prioritize where your investment money goes. Yeah? And you then look at which is cheaper for me, which is less cheap, and which must I do so that I have diversity of supply. So all of these go into the basket. Right? It is only on that basis that you will make a judgment about the volume of money that is going to gas as a source of energy. You have coal, as I said, we have hydro. Gas still remains a very competitive source of energy for power compared to coal, compared to hydro. That is why funds have got to be channeled. The other question is, does it only have to be federal government funds? And the answer to that is no. We need to create the right environment such that private monies can come into this.
Okay, I'll come back to the competitiveness of gas compared to coal and other sources. Let's switch to Japheth. We ended up with these competitive sources and your whole idea of looking at other options as well. But considering the fact that the country is only concentrating on gas, it seems, at the moment, what would you say? Do you really think we are looking at other options at the moment?
I think the conversation should be to understand, first of all, that the bulk of our gas is even being wasted. According to some reports, $7 billion worth of gas is being fled. If you sell it to the highest price gas market in the world, that's Japan. And even the lowest price one, we're still talking about $4 billion worth of gas fled every year. That's a lot of money. And Nigeria's budget is about $30 billion, so you're looking at almost 1/3 of our total budget. I would say that I think the earlier we deregulate the responsibility of power generation and use, the better for us.
When you say deregulate, sorry, are you saying you should put generation in the hands of individuals or private investors?
In the hands of the man on the street. Let the man on the street be able to generate his own power. And like Mr. Frank, I don't know if you're a doctor, but Frank is. Okay, like Frank said, we have options. We have wind, depending on what part of our country you're talking about. There are absolute options. If in Zamfara, for instance, if you're in Borno, you should be talking about solar energy. If you're in the coastal regions like Lagos, like rivers, you're talking about hydro generation. And there are several other options. There is wind. And there are actually situations where it doesn't even have to be capital intensive. There are smaller options. Even in Abuja here, I've been at homes where people use solar generation. I was in Ahmadu Bello University and I had my phone charged via a very, very small solar battery. That was very impressive. So I think what we should be looking at is making this thing available to the market. Let's not forget that we have a very, very, very big market. No matter how much you want to look at it, what's 70 million people? It's big business.
I agree with
so
you.
The idea is to open up the
Everybody seems
space.
to be signing one MOU or another with the state government.
So for me, I think the idea is to open up the space to devolve responsibility from making Abuja generate all the power, from making Abuja be responsible for all of
So if
us.
I understand you clearly, what you're saying now is rather than concentrate on the national grid, we should look at small off-grid solutions.
Yes.
Okay. So let me switch to you quickly. There was a report on your newspaper yesterday about the power plant in Kaduna that is supposed to be run on gas and LPFO, fuel oil. And the issue now is they haven't factored, according to the report, that they didn't factor in the transportation cost of getting the fuel to the station in Kaduna. The railway station itself, the railway line itself that should bring this is not even built yet. So how come Nigeria continues to make this same mistake over and over again?
Well, I think sometimes the explanation is that state governments tend to embark on, or even the federal government is in this case, they tend to embark on prestige projects that are mostly unsustainable because the math didn't appear to have been done in the case of this particular power plant. Yes, there is a big need for it. You know, at a time, Kaduna used to be a very big industrial hub. That is where the present governor of Edo State made his name as an organizer, as a labor organizer in the textile mills of Kaduna. But we know what has happened. And the idea of setting up this particular power plant is to actually help provide the necessary energy needed by these old industries and new ones that have come up. But first of all, when the turbines came, they were stranded in Bonnet Port for 1.5 years because nobody thought through taking them to Kaduna. When they succeeded in doing that, then they found that actually the initial calculation they did about the gas or whatever energy to power those turbines was wrong because the Kaduna refinery cannot produce up to the standard needed to do that. So which means now they have to rely on importing. And you can imagine having to import
Or bringing it from
exactly or from somewhere. And then while we are all, agreed that yes, gas is a very efficient and good source of energy, but that is when it is close to where it is being produced, because that is the challenge of now this Kaduna refinery. You either have to build a pipeline to feed it, or you have to be transporting overland, which will be unsustainable, or maybe lay the red lines when you do. But imagine, remember that even Dangote in Obajana is now using the existing line. I think he may have extended a few kilometers up to his factory to be able to get the power that he needs to power the huge machines, the industrial scale machines that he does there. But I think I fully agree with the bit I had from Mr. Prank about the need to actually do more and deregulate more about the use of gas, because mind you, it's not just in the Niger Delta that there is gas. For a long time, the efforts which have just been halted by the Boko Haram insurgency in around Kukawa in Borno State, they did say, and this is years ago, not 1 or 2 years, there is substantial gas in that area. So they could use that. And recently around Bombay, that is why I think Ashaka or somebody around there is thinking of setting up a gas power plant to utilize that gas. But it's early days because you need to find a way of getting it out and taking it to wherever you want to use it. But I think it is something that we need to do, not just to eliminate the wastages that Japhet was talking about, the flaring with all the environmental consequences, but the fact that it produces very clean and better energy and probably cheaper than some of the other sources.
Okay. So, Chima, let's switch to you. Okay. If Nigeria was to go small off-grid solutions from renewable, would we face the same challenges we are facing now with gas to electricity?
No, definitely not. But the issue with the Nigerian renewable energy sector is that the technology is new to us, and it's, to us, Nigeria is quite expensive. We don't already have the policy framework that supports renewable. The best I think we have gotten so far is the feed-in tariff, and when you talk
That's still that feed-in tariff, isn't that still for the national grid?
It's for the national grid. That's what I'm saying. It still does not come down to the man on the street. There is no upgrade policy yet. Understand? The one we have is for the national grid. Understand? So for us to exploit the resources in terms of the renewables, we need to start looking at the upgrade solutions. Just like my brother rightly said that we have about 50 or 60% of Nigeria who are not connected to the grid electricity. So we might begin to look at giving these people electricity through alternative sources. So, to me, I think solar still remains a good source to tap in. With wind, we have wind in our northern part of the country. That's where you have where you can get the substantial amount of electricity from wind and all that. But solar, Nigeria is blessed. It's in the tropical region, and we have the most amount.
Let me just cut you short. You said renewable. The problem with it in Nigeria is that it's still expensive. When you say expensive, I don't understand. Is it expensive to install or expensive to maintain? Because if I understand correctly, you only have that singular cost of installation compared to the recurring cost with issues like that.
Yeah, in Nigeria, we always look at the front payment in everything we do. That's why most product from China, inferior product from China, has penetrated our market and they're selling, because when people look at the cost of buying the original one and they look at the cost and they serve the same purpose, just that in the long run you find out that this one will just break down, while this one will serve you better. But they look at that initial cost.
So basically, we need to do a lot of sensitization.
We need to do a lot of sensitization, letting people know that look, you just have to pay this initial cost, and in the long run.
Apart from sensitization, I think there has to be room for standardization.
Okay.
Government has to be able to monitor the industry, because in the early days you're likely to get the fake products coming in, and the lessons from those fake products is when people see that a lot of regional actually say that solar it gets fault easily, but the truth of the matter is that actually original product. So by the time government ensures that this sort of fake products, do you know that even the so-called China has different products for different countries? So if you go to China today and you say you want to import this or import that, they will ask you, is it for Nigerian market or American market? And they're actually going to give you the same product but with a different kind of quality, depending on whether it's going to Nigeria or going to America. Of course, you won't be surprised to know that the ones that are coming to Nigeria are the cheaper ones. So it's not just about sensitization, it's about making sure that these bad products don't find their way into the Nigerian market. But having said that, I think we should also let people know that it's about what you decide. For instance, would you want to spend 5,000, I'm just using an example, use 5,000 to install the renewable option and not spend a dime for the next 50 years for maintenance or anything like some of the videos we've showed on Radio Nigeria? Or would you want to spend 1,000 naira for your other options and then spend 5,000 buying for every month, and by the time you calculate it, first of all, you don't even get to use that other option for 15 years. Then secondly, by the time you do the calculations, you know that you would have paid more for these other options. But the people don't know, and we have a responsibility as journalists, as experts, as civil society to break these things and let them know. But we also have to get the government to understand that they should find a way to stop these bad products from entering.
I'll clarify a few points. The first one about renewable energy, using solar as an example, is the most common one. It is difficult to conceive of an average home in a municipal area that can run entirely on solar. Power your fridge, power your air conditioner, power your lighting, etc., etc.
I know.
As a supplement to grid energy, it makes sense. It reduces your total energy cost. By the way, it isn't cheap because the key element of solar energy is the accumulator. Right? A lot of your money is the battery. There's a lot of money goes into that. Battery technology is improving, but it still has a way to go here. And if you've used an inverter in your house, you know the average lifetime is a year. And you have to change the whole thing. And that is a huge cost. So let's put that in perspective in comparing and making every case for solar energy as an aspect of energy security. But it has to be appropriate. When you go to off-grid solutions, so there are many areas, remote areas, that are not connected to the grid. Will take a long time to get connected to the grid because of implications for infrastructure, transmission lines, transformers, etc., etc. To those places, and their energy needs at the moment are low. They want to power up 1 or 2 bulbs and 1 or 2 fans. Solar solutions are ideal for those things. By the way, to generate 1 megawatt of solar power, you need about 1.5 acres of land. And that isn't cheap to install and maintain. And per unit cost, it is more than we are having to pay at the moment for electricity we consume on the grid. Again, put that in perspective. To correct a few impressions, we say the bulk of gas is being wasted. That is incorrect. There is some gas that is being wasted. A natural part of the process of producing oil is getting rid of some gas. You can't stop it. So there is some.
Why is it that there is this policy that keeps being shifted about reducing, actually eliminating the gas flaring?
A lot of money and effort has gone into reducing the amount of flared gas in the last 10 years. A lot of investment money has gone in, and the volumes of flared gas have gone significantly down.
But that's not benefiting the communities.
Well, so you have to balance these things with the facts for what they are. And there remains a few communities.
I think it's more than a few because let me just clarify this thing.
Yeah.
Because I keep seeing, there's supposed to be a deadline, and the oil companies have always managed to get it shifted.
Okay.
So that tells me that thing isn't working.
Okay. So let me again. It's going away from our. It's important to understand the nature of contracting that supports the oil and gas industry in Nigeria is generally joint ventures between the federal government and international oil companies. Of late, we've had a number of indigenous entrants coming into the fray. The cost of running the business of producing oil and gas is borne in proportion to equity, with federal government having on the average 55 to 60% equity in the IOCs. Every dollar, every naira that is spent is paid for 55 kobo or 60 kobo by federal government. So at the end of the day, when you put all of these things together, typically the annual budget for all of the joint ventures comes to something about 12 billion. Then translate that, the federal government is having to pay roughly 6 billion every year. It's a huge burden. And when we go through our normal appropriation and finally we get about half of that, it means that projects that are in the basket of 12 billion have to be scaled back. So some of the flare-out projects that are in the budget get either dropped, postponed, or slowed down. But having said that, journalists and so on, they can access public domain information from NNPC about the flares down programs for the different oil companies. It has gone down significantly. It hasn't gone up, and may not for a long time. The reason being, you always have to come to a balance between what is commercially practical and
environmentally desirable.
Exactly. Yeah, so there's always that balance.
Let
When
me-
you have a well, just one point, when you have a well that is in a swamp, that is 20 kilometers away from any facility whatsoever, other than the wellhead that is there, to put the gas gathering infrastructure there and take it 20 kilometers to somewhere that it can be used, sometimes it is difficult to, or even to collect the gas and re-inject. Remember, many of these wells we're talking about have been in production for 30 years, 40 years, with maybe 5 years or so of a lifetime left. People have got to do all of these economies. Yeah, but it isn't correct that a lot of the gas is being wasted. Remember, NLNG, Bonny LNG,
Yes.
is using gas, and they have returned a lot of money to the Nigerian economy. Yeah.
So let me just ask one more
Before we move forward, sorry, somebody on Twitter is asking, he says, if a lot of the gas is not being flared, can you give us a specific amount that is being flared?
I don't have the answer.
Because the thing is, when you look at literature from different sources, independent sources, the numbers are between $7 billion and $7.5 billion, and the amount is about 55%. Yeah, the amount is about 55%. And if we've achieved considerable reduction over the years, why don't we know? Why is it not out there? Because I checked the numbers just when we were doing Green New Nigeria, when we were on the road, and now we've not seen any considerable change in that number. And then I would say that if the likes of Norway can do it, there are countries that flare just about 1%, 2%, 3%. Why should Nigeria still be in double figures? Let's even forget the cost of flaring in terms of cash. What about the cost of flaring in terms of the fact that there are places in the Niger Delta today that women cannot actually, once you're pregnant, you have to check out because of issues of pollution and the benzene and all those other technical stuff that we cannot begin to go into. Because I think that's even a bigger cost than whether it's $7 billion or $4 billion. But we need to go beyond just hearing from you. We need to be able to actually see this data.
I would recommend anybody that it's public domain information with NNPC.
Do we have to go to NNPC to get these things?
That is where it's all collected.
Okay, sorry, Azina has something about this.
I just want to add something, because when data is available in a way that is so confusing, then that data is not even available. Anything you try to find on the NNPC website, let's be honest, it is a lot of jargon, and it's like there's a deliberate attempt to make it very hard for the average man. So when you say it's on NNPC website, it's like, well, it's not available to you guys.
You can also organize a forum like this to get people from NNPC, and I'm not from NNPC.
Yeah, we have a lot of NNPC.
Yes.
So,
But I think evident to what Mr. Frank has just said is the power plants of the Shell and the IP. Instead of trying to reduce the number of gases they flare, they channel this into the power plant, of which is now being added to our national grid. So I think it's a benefit to those government efforts.
okay,
And actually, the other problem is because of the weak supervision that we have. Because who is supervising the oil industry? Is it not DPR? I thought that's supposed to be, and it's such a weak institution. It's nowhere comparable to the big international oil companies that it's supposed to supervise. So sometimes, or most times, it relies on data they supply. So it is.
yeah, I want to ask a question from something you highlighted. You said we have to look at things that are commercially viable and practicable. That is what Nigeria should implement, and that to do 1 megawatt of solar, we need about 1.5 hectares of land. Plus acres of land, sorry, plus other associated costs. How much will it cost us to generate 1 megawatt from gas? And how much will it cost us to build 1 kilometer of pipeline? Because I saw recently that we commissioned the new gas pipeline, we want to build one from Calabar to Kano. How much will that cost?
I don't have the answer.
Well, I think
But let me try. Maybe somebody here does. But having a sensible grid in the country for gas to gas is the right thing to do, because gas doesn't only power it also powers industries. It's the feedstock for methanol plants. It's that we don't have a choice. So, and that is why I believe the Federal Ministry of Petroleum and NNPC embarked on the national gas infrastructure that they're building out, costing billions, and it's going to take time to fully mature. Yeah? It is
On an average, like how much time?
I think it's going to take another 5-6 years before that stock is built out. But to understand that, to go from finding gas to producing it and having the molecule delivered to any plant takes between 24 and 36 months. And that is where you have all the money, you have all the approvals, and you know exactly what you want to do.
So, Ikenna, let's jump to you. If we are just broken down how difficult it is to translate gas to electricity, why are we concentrating so much on this?
Like he has already cited some things like the technologies may not be there, but I'm just running through the website and I'm looking at India, and they're very soon. India is going to be ahead in terms of solar generation in the world. As of 2010, India was at 17.8 megawatts. So they have
solar?
Yeah, from solar. Now they have more than 2,000 megawatts, and they are hoping to get to about 20,000 megawatts by 2020 just using solar. Their population is teeming.
And how many megawatts are we hoping to get to from gas by 2020?
Altogether, I think
Altogether, we're talking about 10 or so.
no, 40,000. 40,000.
No, 40,000 is total. But 40,000.
No, total actually, not from gas.
Not just from gas.
Okay.
The gas contribution we're expecting about 4,000. I think we've gotten to 6,000. So we're hoping to get an additional 4,000 by the end of 2014 or so. But if you look at it, I think there's something we've not actually looked at. Now, nobody can actually ignore the fact that gas is important. But for you to locate an industry, the first thing you consider are the resources, the resource location. Now, we have the northern parts, they are very rich with solar. If it's doable in India, it's doable in the north. I don't think India have as much sun compared to the northern Nigeria. It's been working there, they've been able to arrive at such heights. So we can bring in that technology into the north. Now, before I came in, I was trying to look at the challenges with gas. We have issues of vandalization. Just in the first week of February, they had like 4 repairs of 4 different gas pipelines. We know the state of insecurity in the nation. We know the rate of unemployed youth. So the chances of vandalization is still going on, either directly or indirectly.
It's very high.
Towards the upside and everything. So now extending or building a pipeline from here to down to the northern part, it's like keeping open, another incentive. But it's been done already. But what we're saying is we still have to look at other avenues. We can't just roll it out. We have to look at alternatives. Solar is doable. The amount of money going in. Okay, if we have to bring in the private investors, what incentives are we?
And to support the last point, the north doesn't just have the solar power. There's actually land. There's actually land. So the argument that 1 megawatt of solar, you need one acre of land, good. The north has not land that is used for agriculture, land that is actually would ordinarily more or less be useless. There's no useless land. Land that is appropriately useful, that would be useful, like what the MENA region, like what Europe is trying to do with the Sahara Desert, a major project. Whether they succeed or not is not the question, but if they can think about such a big project, why can't we as a country think about a smaller version of that project for areas of the north that's more or less like that picture, that's from Nigeria. What are you to plant on that land? So we can actually have solar.
And I think it's good to be mindful of what he said, what is needed to do it. And I can say from the practical point of view, I have a farm here in Abuja where I have 16,000 neighbors, and where they are is powered to solar. So this is, I know.
In Abuja?
Yeah, in Abuja.
By the way, let me tell you.
But what he said is very important. I have seen, even recently in Italy, I saw one farm and I saw the bank, the huge area they use just to power that little farm of solar panels. And Italy is one of the areas of Europe that has good sunshine and sunlight. So there are limitations, but I think the northern states especially are not doing enough.
And even
Maybe
conversation
we are brainwashed. But then another interesting aspect we are ignoring is one little story I saw in the Daily Trust either yesterday also, that people around Katsina and Kang and Daura, which is just 60 kilometers or so to the refinery of Niger Republic, that they are now getting their cooking gas from Niger. It is far cheaper, like maybe 30% cheaper than the Nigerian one that is going there. So that tells me something, that there is the possibility of cross-border thing. Because if you go to Europe, what's the source of all the argument between Russia, Ukraine, and Europe? Part of it is gas, a large part of it, because of the gas that has been transported to Europe and some other places. So what it is suggested is that since the whole area is West Africa, and since there is this potential that is also in Chad, so you don't need to even be thinking only within the borders, but even across borders, because at the end of the day, you are going to create clusters of industries, manufacturing, and other things that will even address some of the problems we have of joblessness, of underemployment, and what have you.
Let me make 2 points. The first one is on solar. You may not be aware, but 3 communities in Abuja are being powered up today by solar energy. These are projects that have been run by the Ministry of Power. They were commissioned in November or so last year. Jurumi is all of them, Shape is another. Yeah, and that's gone as the demonstrator more or less for what's called Operation Light Up Rural Nigeria, which is a solar solution for areas that are off-grid. At the moment, there are all sorts of developments going on to bring in private investors that will build up solar plants and sell energy to communities that are off-grid. You talked about the policy. There is a draft now, final draft of the renewable energy policy that is going through the approval process, and that will solve that problem. It is seen as essential for this kind of thing to happen. So it's going on. So I'm not saying so. It's solar is mostly part of the equation. We have to do it. The other point I want to make is on the need, which I believe is being addressed, for a holistic infrastructure development for Nigeria. We have a lot of domestic gas that is produced from the Bonny LNG plant, about 250 or so metric tons of it. Yeah. The challenge we have, or the industry has, is transporting these things from the coast inland. There's no rail, the roads are not good, and how many trucks are you going to need to move things from Bonny to Katsina? Yeah? If we had the appropriate supporting waterway transportation and rail transportation, it would make things a lot easier to move. Now, development policy has identified that. It's going to take time to get there. Yeah? But I believe that when you look at the different aspects of infrastructure that's being put in place, it is to make easy transportation of goods and services, from the coast inland.
I really like the point that you made that this is going to take time to make the gas sector really work for Nigerians, as a lot of people are hoping. But a lot of times, I think the problem with this whole story is that a lot of Nigerians are not being enlightened enough to tell them this story that this will take time. It's not like if you have gas today, you will have electricity tomorrow. I remember the last time we had this conversation, I asked you that why is it that they are painting this story like as if we have the PID today, tomorrow every other Nigerian will have electricity.
The same way actually painting FOI.
Yes, exactly. I think that's the big problem that we have. You remember there was a minister who said within 6 months he would solve the power problem. And it's now 16 years there and out, and it hasn't happened. So I think
it's ignorance.
exactly, and it's part of the Nigerian problem of putting people, maybe politicians, in charge of technocratic sectors, and then people just letting their mouth go ahead of them. So I think it is good for the government to even begin to come clean and say that, look, this huge mess that we are in, it will take time to solve. It may not be the most popular thing to say, but at least it's the truth. And as they say, when it is the truth, it may not be popular, but it is enduring.
Exactly.
And over time, you find that people will begin to buy in and understand, and even probably come round to the government and even institutions so as to support everyone to achieve that. But if we continue with this short-termist kind of thing, saying that, by December there wouldn't be, and then December is how many months away? We all know they are telling us like, we just listen.
If you
So
remember,
let's just jump to Azina. Sorry, is there anything for us from there?
I think there's this one question right now that has stood out. Someone asked, how is government addressing losses of 30 to 35% from generation to billing? Loss of energy from generation to billing. I think
The transmission because of the problem.
okay, so it's natural. You have losses.
Not
Transmission
on this
losses.
scale.
Well, depends. You know, some of the infrastructure, transmission infrastructure we're using date back to the 60s, 1960s. Yeah, and the heat is a form of energy, and when your medium is weak, you lose a lot of energy in heat, and the longer the distance, the more the loss, and so on. So that's another part of the challenge. We have to upgrade our transmission infrastructure as a way to minimize the losses. There are always losses, but not at the scale that you're talking about. I just wanted to go back to the point you made. You know, if you remember during the regime of Obasanjo, where these NIPP plans,
Yes.
yeah, so they were flung, you know, kind of everywhere, and you know, we had plans that were put into areas where there was no gas.
Isn't that the same thing now?
Yeah.
The 10 in the Niger Delta that were commissioned, a lot of them
Yeah.
complaining. Still
No, so they put into areas where there was no gas, and in some areas where there was gas, there were no plans. So, and again, it takes time. Those problems we are still trying to deal with. There are sites where we have had gas for 5 years, and we're still waiting for the plants to be ready. Conversely, there are sites where plants have been ready 5 years, and the gas hasn't got there because nobody thought about where will this gas come from and how will it get to. But now we're taking, that's one of the reasons I have a job today, is we're taking a holistic look at this and trying to find the solutions to each of these problems. Now, identifying the solutions, you plan them out, it's going to take time and money to resolve. But we are now acknowledge that we have problems.
Okay, we are almost out of time. But sorry, there are some questions from our Twitter people.
Okay, I think just two questions. One person asked that why are we concentrating on every other energy source except biomass? And then secondly is the communities in Abuja that are running. Is it government who is in charge of maintenance or the communities themselves? How is it being run?
Okay, biomass, we have a feasibility study that's ongoing now. First, you need to look at where will the waste and whatever come from. That's going to be converted. What volumes are you looking at, and where is the break-even point? So there's a feasibility study that's ongoing at the moment. The one of
And I think some of the Songhai farms are using the biomass, and that is some of their waste from the chickens, from all the cows. They now turn them into power.
By the way, another project that we have ongoing, we have what's called captive power. Lots of industries like Songhai and so on, they have done things to solve their power needs, and they produce more power, or producing more power than they need. So now we're looking at how those excess power that they are generating can be put onto the grid.
I think like NASCO in Jos.
I like the solution for gas flaring. I think one of the solutions, of course, there are many options, is to stop saying by 2020 gas flaring should stop. You should not have this bullet idea of what to stop. I think we should look at a year-on-year basis.
Yeah.
So by 2015, reduce number should be like this. By 2020, the number should be like, by 2017, the number should be like this. One. Then secondly, we should also look at creating an incentive for companies. So for instance, if company A is doing a lot of job in reducing, maybe company A is achieving year-by-year targets for its own company, that company should be paying less per unit for tax or for the penalties compared to the other companies. Because if there are no incentives for the companies, it's a business at the end of the day. They want to make money, but will not be able to deal with it.
Okay.
Yeah, just so you know, if I may say, at some point you were asking the cost of maybe having these power plants and the cost of treating the gas and all that. From the statistics I had from NEC the last time, the cost of building the open-sided gas turbine, which is the simplest power plant from gas, is about $1.2 million to generate 1 megawatt of electricity. The way you now look at other sources, like maybe from renewable, it's far higher than that. So, and because we are looking at our strength in Nigeria is gas. So, and that's why everybody is talking about this gas. And we believe that it's going to solve this.
But that price you just gave us, does that include the recurring costs?
The part I even said is maybe assuming that you have the evacuation mechanism, like the transmission line, and you already have a building gas delivery to the plant. It's just, having the power plant, and it takes like 3 to 4 years to complete.
Okay. So I think we've had a very, very fruitful conversation. So we'll take 30 seconds each to round this up and what the main points would be for us. So let's start.
I think it's good that we have a proper plan when we are doing all these things, so that everything is fitting into the plan, whether it's the gas, whether it's the solar, whether it's the wind or whatever, because that will now prevent places like, let's say, Sokoto State Government. It has a similar project in the Kaduna one. It has set up a plan without thinking through how to power it, and now they are stuck with it. So, but if there is a proper planning, like when we used to in Nigeria have a 5-year development plan, it's better that way, so you know what you need to do and you achieve it within that. And it's particularly important in this issue of tackling our power challenge.
Thank you very much.
I think talking about plan, I think first of all we have to look at our energy industry as one big umbrella. We should stop treating them individually. It's one big industry, it's one big umbrella. But having said that, we should stop treating gas as the younger brother of the oil industry. The gas itself can be a boss. It's not even now a question of can be. In the nearest future, the gas has to be the boss. So let's start looking at gas, like the gas oil for themselves, rather than have a petroleum industry there and then look for tiny spaces to talk about gas. I think if we don't treat it that way, we will miss the point all over again, because the next future for Nigeria is gas.
Okay. Gas is a very important element of the solution to our energy needs, but it is by no means the only. It is the big brother of all of the other sources, but it's by no means the only. Coal, renewable, hydro play very important roles. And a lot is being done already in these areas. A lot more still needs to be done. I think we, as Nigerians, going with all the burden that we're carrying at the moment, we still need to exercise a little more patience. It is difficult to say, but that's the truth. We need to exercise a little more patience, because there is none of these projects that is a light switch. They take time to mature.
Okay, now.
There's a lot of funding that needs to go into power. We need to look at attracting foreign investments. And attracting foreign investments is setting the environment right. We have to remove politics from technical issues like this. Because I think the only reason that we bring a plant and locate it in a place where there's no supply, it's politics. It's obviously politics. So there have to be a clear cut. The environment has to be set. For foreigners to come in to want to make profits, you have to set the environment right for them. And we have to decentralize the whole energy source issue. The cloud is big enough for everyone to fly. Let's have the renewable fly, let's have the gas fly, and let's have the other sectors fly. But the environment has to be set for people to come in and invest.
Okay, I think we have to take a holistic view about our energy sector, looking at the way forward. And gas is not the only option. We have other options. But the thing is about looking at your strength, where your strength lies and all that. But like my brother rightly said, let's open up the doors, understand, and let's whatever can play along in the sectors and all that. But everything still boils down to the kind of policies we have. Like I know India, we are able to achieve the enormous amount of success they have in terms of renewable because of the robust policies they have. In India, they have incentives, they have renewable energy certificates, and they bring everybody on board. They have a better network than we do in Nigeria, so that the small generation from renewables have been noticed. As the amount of renewable you mentioned from India is an aggregate of what everybody generates in India. It's not happening in Nigeria. You have to go back to the kind of policies you have. You have to incentivize the sector to make it thrive.
What I would take away from this conversation is the fact that, okay, Azina, you have something for Ross?
Yes,
Okay,
I have
sorry.
one last thing I needed to say.
Okay, sorry.
I think I totally agree with what Frank said about, good God, all of a sudden I have too much in my head. Yeah, about people being patient and the fact that it's not a one-day solution. But I think government also has to be honest. This government has been saying we're going to have so-so electricity at December, at June. I mean, we've been talking about this since 2011 or 2012. If you lay down the plans and honestly discuss with Nigerians as to what is feasible and what is possible, I think everybody would embrace and work with you guys.
Okay, so just to add to what Azina has said, I totally agree with that, and I like the fact that Mr. Frank was honest with us to tell us that this will take time. But I also agree gas is very important, but I don't think concentrating too much on gas is the way forward. It's a finite resource that will run out one day as well. Oil is currently running out, and every Nigerian is waking up to that reality. So I think our energy future should be one that we think about who will provide us energy for the next 100 years. Not just because statistics have it that gas will run out in about 60 years if we utilize all of the gas we have, or at current production. So I think I agree with every other person on the table who says Nigeria's energy security is one that will have to be robust, comprehensive, and be an umbrella. Thank you very, very much for taking part in this, and we hope to have you here again when we have the next one. Hopefully, that you have time for us again. So thank you very, very much.
And the way the country is even going, I think it's high time every state becomes self-responsible. Not self-reliant, self-responsible. You're responsible to yourself. That's not looking inward. Because they are talking about making the center weak and the components getting all strong. So I don't know. I think
It's an international conference.
I think so. Serious.
Okay.
I'm sorry to be a mistake.
No worries.
Thank you, sir.
Yes. Okay.
This is thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you. Yeah. All right, Azina. Thank
Nice
you.
meeting you.
Yeah,
Have a good day.
Thank you.
So I'll send.
Okay, all right.
Azina, what network are you using?
The office? No, I'm using Etisalat. Etisalat is splendid. I can't even
Well, I
say
have a solar one, it's not running.
the Etisalat that is running inside there, something is wrong with your line. Maybe I'm on priority.
No, serious. I think it was an intruder. And the last time I had a meeting here, when I came, I wanted to complain. I just said, let me just keep quiet.
Then again, I've called them a lot of times to complain that my network was slow, and since the